The DJI RS3 Mini is without a doubt my favorite gimbal that I've ever used. And if you are someone like me that prioritizes having a lightweight filmmaking setup above everything else, you are absolutely going to love this gimbal. Spoiler for this review out of the way. Hey, my name is Matt Johnson, and today I'm going to be reviewing this gimbal from the perspective of a wedding filmmaker and telling you why I think that DJI absolutely knocked it out of the park with the RS3 Mini. So if you film weddings or documentaries or real estate, or you're just wanting a lightweight and affordable gimbal, this review is for you. Also, for the sake of ethics, I want you to know this video is not paid or sponsored by DJI in any way. They don't even know that I'm making it, and I bought this gimbal with my own money. Well, technically, I bought this gimbal with DJI credit that I had because I'd bought so much stuff in the past, and they give you credit whenever you buy through their website, and I'd built up enough credit to be able to afford this very affordable gimbal. So I did use my own money, but it was more like a gift card than cash. Anyways, in the world of gimbals, it feels like manufacturers like DJI and Zhiyun Tech were chasing a need they saw to make bigger and beefier gimbals with bigger and beefier motors like the Crane 3, and don't even get me started on the DJI Ronin S. That gimbal was stupid heavy, and you can comment down below if you remember the arm workout that you'd get from that thing. So my point here is that things were just getting too heavy when it came to gimbals. Thankfully, in the last couple years, it feels like we're finally seeing a shift in the other direction from gimbal companies. DJI released the incredibly popular RS3 gimbal, which has a ton of carbon fiber and comes in at a svelte 2.8 pounds, which was such a welcome change. But most importantly, even with this lighter weight, these new gimbal motors are still powerful enough to hold heavier cameras. It's the best of both worlds. Lighter gimbals that are still powerful. This trend of lightning gimbals has now continued to with the announcement of this little guy, the DJI RS3 Mini, and look at how tiny it is. I love it. DJI has managed to make this gimbal even smaller and lighter than any of their other offerings, but at the same time, it still has powerful enough motors to hold most camera setups these days. If I had to compare how using this gimbal feels to something, whenever I was filming a wedding with it recently, I was filming with my friend Justin Porter, who you may have seen from TikTok. And whenever he held this gimbal, he said it felt to him like he was holding a DJI Osmo. You know what I'm talking about? One of those little baby gimbals that DJI makes that holds a cell phone? Now, granted, Justin works out. He lifts, but I agree with him. This gimbal is super lightweight, and at 1.8 pounds, it almost feels like something that should be used to hold a cell phone, not a bigger camera. But that said, the motors are still quite strong. In my testing, the RS3 Mini unsurprisingly easily held my A7S III with a 24mm lens. It also held a heavier 24 to 105mm lens, which did strain it a bit due to how much that lens extends. And as a plus, I was even able to balance a Sony 70 to 200 f4 lens on it as well. Keep in mind though, that lens was total overkill. I actually had to mount the camera to the gimbal instead of the lens like you traditionally would to get the center of gravity to work properly. So my point here is that even though this gimbal is tiny and feels more like an Osmo, it is still easily strong enough to handle the vast majority of mirrorless cameras and lens combinations that you can throw at it today. That said though, I do want you to be aware that this gimbal does have some limitations in regard to motor strength if you're used to coming from a bigger gimbal, with the biggest difference being that if you are using a zoom lens like the 24 to 105 that I was using, and you need to zoom the lens while it's on the gimbal, this gimbal's motors are not strong enough to hold the camera steady while using the zoom ring, and the gimbal's arms are going to want to rotate. This isn't a huge deal, I just wanted you to be aware of it. So, the small size of the RS3 Mini coupled with its relatively strong motor strength is a huge pro for this gimbal. When I bought it, I was concerned that the motors might not be strong enough, but I was pleasantly surprised. This leads into my next area of concern that I had about the RS3 Mini before I bought it though, because unlike its bigger brother, the RS3, I was worried because this gimbal is so small, its battery life may suffer, especially whenever you consider that it only has an internal battery here in the handle, and this handle ain't that big, and that battery's not swappable. Unlike the larger RS3, which has a detachable handle that you can swap out if you need to change the battery. So, with the RS3 Mini, your only option is to charge the gimbal if it runs out of battery. And if you watched my review of the Zhiyun Weebill 2, which was another gimbal that was billed as being smaller and also did not have a swappable battery, one of my biggest complaints about that gimbal was that it only lasted for about half a wedding day before I needed to charge it to make sure I could get through the rest of the day. So, In a word, the DJI RS3 Mini's small size and its relatively smaller battery made me nervous. Thankfully, I am so happy and excited to tell you that my fears were completely unfounded because I was frankly shocked by the battery life that I got from this gimbal. I tested the RS3 Mini in a real-world scenario, filming a wedding from 9:30 a.m. in the morning until 10 p.m. at night, with my camera on this gimbal the majority of the time. Of course, also being mindful to turn off the gimbal whenever I didn't need it. By filming this way on and off for over 12 hours, I ended the wedding day with the gimbal reporting its battery percentage was still at 54%. Yes, over half of the battery life was still remaining, and I used this gimbal all day at a wedding. Now, if the battery had been down to 30% or 20%, I would have been getting nervous, but heck, 50%? I could have gone out and filmed another entire wedding day with this gimbal and not had to charge it. The battery life is awesome on the RS3 Mini. Of course, in a perfect world, I would still love if the handle was detachable or the batteries were swappable, just to give me that extra peace of mind as a professional that stresses about battery life a lot. But I understand that DJI wanted to make this a simple and affordable gimbal. So it's cool, and I think that you can trust it for even a long day of filming. Anyways, I'm not done telling you what I love about this gimbal because we need to talk about some other cool features, starting off with the power on speed. The RS3 Mini starts up within a few seconds, which I feel like is on par with most other gimbals these days, and I have no complaints about how quickly you can get it up and running. More importantly though, one thing that I love about this gimbal that I'm sure is present on other DJI gimbals, but for me, coming from Zhiyun, it is great to see this. This gimbal remembers your previous settings you were using whenever you started up. What I mean by that is that I'm a big fan of using the pan, tilt, follow mode on a gimbal, meaning that when I use it, I not only want the gimbal to pan side to side whenever I rotate the base, but I also want the gimbal to tilt up and down. In the past, with my Zhiyun gimbals, every single time that I would turn off the gimbal and turn it back on, it would always default to the basic pan follow mode where the gimbal wouldn't tilt, and this was a huge pain because I would always have to go into the settings and change it. Of course, it was only a button press or the flick of a switch, but it was something I still had to remember every single time that I turned on the gimbal. Thankfully, with this DJI gimbal, the RS3 Mini remembers the setting that I was using whenever I turn it off, so every single time that I turn it on, it saves me a second of needing to change the setting to pan, tilt, follow, which is fantastic. It's the little things. Now, there are other features the RS3 Mini supports as well, like mounting points on the side here for a briefcase grip, as well as the ability for you to connect your camera to the gimbal with a control cable so you can start and stop recording, etc. For me though, I'm a simple man. When I'm filming a wedding, the last thing that I want is for my camera to be connected to a gimbal with a cable because I'm taking the camera on and off the gimbal all the time. If you film weddings or film fast like I do, I'm sure you can understand this, where you get a shot with your gimbal, but then immediately after that, you want to go handheld. So you put the gimbal down really quick to take off your camera. If you're filming all day on a gimbal and never taking your camera off, by all means, get a camera control cable to use with the RS3 Mini. But if you're like me, you don't want any of that extra stuff. You want a super simple gimbal that will get you stable footage. And if you have to reach up and press record on your camera instead of moving your thumb to press a button on the gimbal, this takes maybe half a second longer. It's not a big deal. So that's my general stance as far as accessories go for the RS3 Mini. I'm sure they're nice, but I have not personally used them other than plugging the camera control cable from the gimbal into my Sony camera to be able to confirm for you that it does work, and you can start and stop your recordings with the gimbal from this cable. Anyways, if I had some wishes for the RS3 Mini that I could dream that they might include in an RS4 Mini, as I already said earlier, I would love if the batteries were swappable or if the handle was at least swappable. That would put it more in line with the RS3 Pro. Another feature that I would love the RS3 Mini to take away from the bigger RS3 would be the auto locking arms feature. I was talking to Justin Porter about this, and he was telling me how he thought that the auto locking arms were a gimmick on the RS3 until he used them, and now he can't go back. Lastly, I would love to see a different quick release plate for this gimbal. In a perfect world, it would be the same as my Manfrotto quick release plates that I use on my cameras, but those are pretty big. I just want something that's a little bit more standardized than what DJI went with. All that said though, if any of these additions in the form of an extra battery or auto locking or a different plate, etc. were to add weight to this gimbal, I would not want them to be added because I know I said earlier, but I need to reiterate again, I absolutely love how lightweight it is. If you are someone like me that films weddings or other events where you need to be filming for 12 plus hours at a time like I did when I tested this gimbal, I was so thankful that it was lightweight, because usually halfway through a wedding, my arms are killing me due to carrying a heavy gimbal around. But with this RS3 Mini, it was a joy to use all day, and I don't want to see DJI screw that up by adding more weight to a successor in the future. In fact, heck, here's one more add-on that I would like to see DJI include with a successor to the RS3 Mini. Make it carbon fiber like the RS3. Make it even lighter. I'm fine with that. Of course, carbon fiber could make it more expensive, but that leads into us needing to talk about the price of this gimbal, which is frankly ridiculous in the best possible way. At the time of making this video, DJI is charging $369, which is easily the cheapest price that I've ever paid for a gimbal, and that makes me really happy. Like I said earlier, this gimbal almost feels like it's in Osmo territory when it comes to its weight, but seeing that price tag, it's also close to the Osmo in price as well. I'm telling you, the RS3 Mini is dangerous because it's almost in an impulse purchase territory for some filmmakers. I have plenty of friends that are going to look at that price and say, oh, only 300 something bucks, I'll buy it right now. And so, should you buy it? Well, like I said at the start, the DJI RS3 Mini is without a doubt my favorite gimbal that I've ever used. And if you are looking for a super lightweight gimbal with an absolutely stellar battery life that you can film all day with and not feel like you did 500 bicep curls the morning after, I think that you are going to absolutely love this gimbal, and I highly recommend it. Speaking of things that I recommend, you got to check out my color presets. If you like the colors in this video and you want to get colors like them with your cameras, regardless of whether you film with Sony or Canon or Panasonic or Nikon, you are going to love my Who Is Matt Lutz color presets. They're linked down in the video description. Also, linked down in the video description, I'm going to put a link to my free Edit Videos Like a Pro guide. This guide is going to walk you through some of the biggest things that took me years to learn as a video editor, and it's going to help you level up your video editing so fast. You can check it out for free at the link down in the video description. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.